In this video for StatCrunch, I want to show you how to generate confidence intervals for the mean and for the population proportion. We're going to start with an example for the mean. I'm using a data set from Chapter 6. So in order to get there, on the side of your screen, navigate to Chapter 6 and click Confidence Intervals. And I'm using data set 6.1, Exercise 66. So here we have grams of carbohydrates listed, and we want to use this data to create a confidence interval. Now, the way that we're going to do this is through the Stat menu. So we'll go to Stat, and we're using z-statistics to create our confidence interval here. So we'll go to z-statistics. This is for one sample, and we have the data here with us. Let me show you what it would look like if we had the summary. If we have the summary, this will pop up a little window for us to fill in some information, and you need to have the mean of the data, the standard deviation, and the sample size. We'll try one of those in a little bit, but first let's start with the data. So we select the column that includes the data, click Next, and we want to create a confidence interval. Let's create a 99% confidence interval, so I'll change the level to 0.99, and I'll click Calculate. And here I'm given my lower limit and my upper limit. So these together would form the confidence interval. So our confidence interval for this particular set of data would go from 36.43 to 47.5. Now let's suppose that we have information about the sample mean, standard deviation, and so on. So let me go ahead and generate that information for this column, and then we'll find the confidence interval using the summary. So we need the mean and we need the standard deviation. So I'm just going to select those. Oh, and we'll need the n value too, the number. Of course, we could just scroll down and find that out, but I'll have it printed. I'm going to store this so we can see it show up in the table, and I'm going to click Calculate. And you can see here what our mean is. And it didn't get the standard deviation, so let me go through and run that again to make sure we get our standard deviation this time. And I'll store this. And here's our standard deviation now. So if we have the summary information, we'll go to With Summary, and I'll input this information. So 41.97, standard deviation 11.77, and sample size 30. And let's create a 90% confidence interval for this one. So we'll click Confidence Interval, change the level, and click Calculate. And here we get our lower limit and our upper limit for our confidence interval. Now let me show you how to create confidence intervals for proportions. I'm beginning with a blank data set here, and we can do this with data or with a summary. Let's suppose that we have a summary to begin with. So let's go to Stat, Proportions, One Sample, and here's where we can choose with data and with summary. We're going to go with summary first. And what it tells us to put in is simply the number of successes in our data set and the total number of observations. So let's say we're creating a confidence interval for the proportion of females to males in a specific data set. And in this data set we have 100 people total, and 67 of them are female. So we'll put 67 as the number of successes and 100 for the total sample size or number of observations. Click Next and select Confidence Interval and change the level if you need to. We'll leave this one at 0.95. This particular drop-down that gives you the method, we won't change. Leave it as standard walled. Then click Calculate. And here we have the lower and upper limit for the proportion of females in our data set. So the lower limit is 0.58 and the upper limit is 0.76. And that creates our confidence interval. Now let's suppose we have some actual data here. So keeping with the proportion of females to males, we're going to input some data. I'm just going to input about 12 data points here. And you can input these as well. So I've input female, male, 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 female, 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 male, male, female, male, female. And now what I'll do is go to Stat, Proportions, One Sample with Data, and my outcomes are in var1. Success is female. Click Next. Select confidence interval, input the appropriate level. We'll leave this one as 95% for now, and click Calculate, and here you'll get your confidence interval. So a lower limit of 0.217 with an upper limit of 0.783.